Yes, our next guest is Convoy lawyer Keith Wilson. Keith, thanks for joining us. And honestly, I'll be straight with you. You're helping us kill some time here as we wait for these hand-counted ballots to come in. So everything is right in. Before we get going, what are your predictions for this riding? Is Bonnie Critchley going to surprise us all? Oh, you're muted.
There you go. How's that?
Perfect.
Better.
Let us have it.
I got to be candid. It just doesn't matter.
Right.
This is the problem we have in Canada right now.
Yeah.
What happens tonight, short of, Poilievre not winning or just winning with like 52%, all the problems that we had last year in Canada and all the problems we had last week in Canada and all the problems we are going to have next weekend in the balance of the year, we're still going to have. And the reason I say that is the opposition has been very ineffective. We've had minority governments for the longest period of Canadian history. We have had minority governments in the past throughout the history of our country, but not for this long. Carney's ruling like he's the leader with a majority, right. And he's not. He's got a minority government, and he's had a minority government since April. So what's going to change? Poilievre is going to destroy him in the House of Commons.
But he did that to Trudeau.
Pardon me?
But he also did that to Trudeau, and it didn't make much of a difference, did it?
Correct. And Carney's going to be so much worse. Like, he's terrible on his feet. Just terrible on his feet.
It's bad.
In terms of being able to respond quickly. And he says this, he's always thanking people for things when he shouldn't be saying thank you. And he's just really awkward. I'm sure he was that geeky guy in junior high and elementary school, but whatever. More importantly, So Carney will just avoid the House of Commons question period, as much as he can. He'll be doing important work for making us the most European, non-European country possible, things like that. So my concern is that, why is it that we can have minority governments for so long? It's because in order for the opposition, the Conservatives, to take down the government in a non-confidence vote, they need the support of either the Bloc Québécois in Quebec, which marched to a completely different drummer with a completely different set of values and objectives, or the NDP. Good luck with that. So what this reflects to me is this serious dysfunction that Canada's facing. I really believe the only hope for people outside of Alberta and Saskatchewan having the Canada back that they loved and were raised in and have fond memories about is going to be, and you probably, I don't know if you guys had a pool as to how long it was before I came on, before I said the word independence or separatism. There you go. I said it. That's my view, is that as I said, you guys had me on your show last week, and I expressed candidly that I feel bad for Pierre Poilievre because it just seems he can't win. If he says what he needs to say to get votes in Quebec, he's going to lose votes in the other parts of the country and possibly even Ontario. If he says what he needs to say to appease the people in Ontario, he's going to alienate the West. And, we could do all the other permutations.
I was just thinking about the grossest thing I saw today, Keith, and it was Doug Ford, the Conservative in name only from Ontario, and he was asked what his advice would be for Pierre Poilievre. And you guys in the studio have that teed up. Like, by the way, Pierre Poilievre has a title, Leader of the Opposition, or His Majesty's Loyal Opposition. His job is to oppose. The whole system depends on it. Here's what Doug Ford had to say that he thought Poilievre should do. Take a listen.
Premier, today is Pierre Poilievre's by-election. If he gets elected, I'm wondering, what's your advice to him going into the fall sitting of the Parliament?
Work with the Prime Minister.
How so?
Let's team Canada. You know, let's put our political stripes aside and start working together collectively on large infrastructure projects, on other areas that he can cooperate with the government.
Last question.
Would you have plans to meet with Poilievre to push that message and make sure that he is working with the Prime Minister?
All I want to do is move forward collectively as a government. I don't care about political stripes. The person I'm working with right now is the Prime Minister of the day. And as far as I'm concerned, he's doing a really, really good job considering the position he's been put in. I challenge anyone to try to deal with Donald Trump, myself included. He's a different type of cat. But we're united. We know what we need to do. And we know that we need to cut the regulatory burdens off of companies, lower taxes, put money back into people's pockets, support companies that need investment to grow and expand here, and onshore, the procurement side. It's absolutely critical.
So his number one piece of advice for Pierre Poilievre is stop being so disagreeable, stop opposing, stop disagreement, agree with Mark Carney, do what he says. And he had some comments earlier about how Donald Trump is the worst. I do not understand what Doug Ford is trying to do. He opposed Pierre Poilievre during the election. He throws these weird tantrums against Donald Trump. And I'm not saying Canadians have to love Donald Trump, but I just don't understand what he's up to. But if that is our ally, if that is Alberta's ally in Canada, we're hooped.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, that's your great conservative? Oh my
Right.
God. I'm deeply embarrassed. You know, I wish that Rob Ford were still around. Now there's a man I would vote for.
Thank you. Yes, because at least we had an explanation for the crazy things that Rob said, right? Like we had an actual
Rob,
explanation
Rob,
for them. But Doug, like, explain it to me like I'm five. What, like, can we agree that no matter what Doug Ford says in his era right now, in his off the rails era, that we should do the exact opposite? Like, Doug Ford is telling Pierre Poilievre to make amends with the federal government, just play along, just be a buddy to the federal government. Like Keith Wilson, would there be any value in Pierre Poilievre's Conservatives having an understanding with the bloc in Quebec to work as co-conspirators against the federal government? Would there be any value in that?
Well, I think there would be, but it takes, as we know, it takes two to tango.
Right.
And the challenge that Poilievre has is that the bloc doesn't want to play. Right? They beat to their own drummer, and they're singly focused on Quebec and whatever in Quebec's interests. So they would, in return for that, they would seek to extort concessions or promises or commitments, I suspect, from Poilievre. Yeah, that money, our money, taxpayers' money at a minimum, and most likely Albertans' hardworking money. So that's the problem we have. I think, well, you guys know my view. I just think Canada is structurally, culturally broken.
Yeah. Going back to Doug Ford there, he says this after the U.S. ambassador comes out last week and says, this nonsense, this adversarial nonsense, this calling Trump names, this picking fights in the media with us doesn't get you anywhere with Trump. And so what does Ford do? Walk right out and say that, Trump's crazy and hard to deal with, and you should just get along with Mark Carney. Instead of saying, I wonder which premier is the one that got away largely unscathed in this mess. And it's the one that didn't run her yap about Donald Trump, and instead reached out to the Republicans, goes on the shows that she knows they watch, heads to Mar-a-Lago, gets called a traitor for it, doesn't capitulate. Who appointed Doug Ford, the foreign affairs minister of this country, when he has had absolutely zero big fat goose egg success in dealing with the Americans? I just don't understand it. It's like he wants the economy to tank. I don't understand the logic.
Oh no, because Ontario industry is the thing that's suffering greatest under the existing tariffs with Trump. So not only does Doug's approach or strategy not work in this circumstance, but Carney's doesn't either. These two being aligned, being buddy-buddy, is not serving the people of Canada. There was a meeting today in the White House with all of the NATO nations except for Mark Carney and Canada weren't invited. They weren't invited to talk about Ukraine, who we've shoveled billions of dollars at. We weren't even invited to attend. So no, their strategy is not working on the Americans. As a matter of fact, it's blowing up in their faces, and sort of deservedly so.
Well, maybe that's the answer. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Keith.
Yeah, let me shine a light on something here that I never knew till a couple of years ago, and it blew me away when I heard it, because it explains a lot of things, like what happened today. I was invited to participate in a business leader industry conference. It had that, forget the name of those rules, Chatham House rules. So you kind of, you could have candid discussion. So I won't breach it. But they had a presenter who was a very serious, credible pollster, not one of these psyops we keep seeing from the usual suspects. And this weird phenomena was identified that whenever, so this would have been during Trudeau's day, Justin Trudeau's day, whenever Doug Ford was at a photo op together with Trudeau, both Trudeau and Ford's numbers went up. And if you think back over the last few years, the number of times you'd see the two of them together at some frigging announcement. Right. So Carney's in trouble today because of the embarrassment of him not getting invited to Washington and being completely ignored. For all of his complete failures to deliver, he looks weak. So they go to two of their go-to things. One is they have Ford show up in his office, try and get the regalia of that very poorly decorated, cold, sterile PMO. And the other thing they do, their go-to when they're in trouble, is they go LGBTQ plus or Pride, right? Whenever Trudeau was really in trouble and he needed to create a distraction to one of his failures, he would announce $30 million for LGBT plus for Africa. Because he knew reasonable people would go, what are you talking about? We don't have $30 million of ID.
It's so interesting.
What flag did they just change out?
Well, and CSIS today, our national intelligence agency, just posted about their ever-loving, their commitment to Pride and LGBTQIA initiatives in Canada. It is so interesting that you bring that up.
I would like them to commit to
it's like shiny object,
the Chinese
right?
Out of
shiny
our
object.
elections.
Shiny object. Oh, they're figuring out how terrible Canadians are starting to understand how bad of a leader Carney is. His team in the Privy Council office there go, all right, let's throw up some shiny objects. So there'll probably be an announcement this week on gun confiscation. Then there's going to be an announcement about abortion. And if there is an announcement about abortion, you're really in trouble, because that's always their go-to as well, right? Is to distract from their own failings.
I'm like, why can't these people keep our elections secure from the Chinese? And they're like, let's bring in the two-spirit hoop dancer for Pride season. What the heck?
There's one more darker reason. You're so right. It's about changing the channel. Doug Ford calculated what is the stupidest thing I can say and get away with it that'll switch the channel from Mark Carney not being down in Washington. But there is one other reason. A recession is coming to Canada. In fact, depends on how you measure it. On a per capita basis, we've been in recession for years. We're all losing ground. We're getting poorer. And it's not just the tariffs, that's the latest thing. Housing is sagging, even though immigration is higher than ever. Like, there's a lot of bad things happening. And so who's going to wear that? Well, normally it would be the incumbents. But you throw in the Trump, and what you've done is you now have a scapegoat. Oh, no, the economy isn't bad because of Mark Carney or Doug Ford. No, are you kidding me? We all know Trump's what did it. So I think the antagonizing of Trump is deliberate. They're setting up a scapegoat. You know what? I don't want to take up too much of your time, but we did dig up what I think was one of Rob Ford's best videos. And this can only be done by someone genuine. I want to show about a minute of Rob Ford when he was a city councillor. And by the way, a city councillor in Toronto is a pretty big job.
Sure. It's bigger than Alberta.
And what you're about to see is a flawed man. We know now he had many problems and many flaws, but he had an inner compass. He had an inner code, a morality, an ethic. He was like Ralph Klein in that way. He had a common sense and instinctive to be with the people. And let me show you the man who I wish were around and I wish were Premier of Ontario. The wrong Ford is Premier. Take a look at Rob. Take a look.
I've got all the free passes for councillors. I call them free perks that are tax-free, which is costing the taxpayers millions of dollars. So let's start off. Free zoo pass. Toronto Zoo VIP pass. The VIP named on this card and his or her family will be granted parking, admission, and rides at the Toronto Zoo without charge. I can bring everybody in my family here to the zoo for free. The average person has to pay $15, $20 to get in, $10 or $15 to park, $5 or $10 a ride. The poor average family is paying $200. Councillors that are paying, getting paid $100,000 get to get in for free. It's absolutely wrong. That's just the tip of the iceberg. Let's get on to some other stuff here. Metro passes. Here's a Metro pass. This is equivalent to $1,300 a year. Again, councillors make $100,000 a year. I take home $1,400 a week net. Why should councillors get a free Metro pass? The TTC's dying for money. We've just increased fares 25 cents. The average person out there, the poor working student or the poor working senior that has to get out there and get on the bus every day has to pay $3. But we, the councillors, get on the bus for free. This should be eliminated immediately. The parking passes. Parking. We can go to any parking lot in the city of Toronto and park for free.
Can you believe that?
Be it Friday night, Saturday night. And all the councillors say is, oh, well, we're doing city business. Well, when I ask, what time are these passes being used at, or what day are these passes being used at, they aren't going to give me that information. But it's taxpayers' money, years and years and years of parking passes. So when the average person has to go to Rogers Centre to watch a Blue Jay game or go to the theatre on King Street or go out for dinner, they have to pay $20 or $25. Councillors get to park for free. This is absolutely wrong. This should be eliminated immediately. Let's move on. Exhibition. Exhibition, we get in the X when it's on for free. We get the park for free. The average person, you go to the X during August and September, costs $10, $15 to get in. Parking's $10, $15. Councillors who get paid $100,000 a year get to go in for free and bring their family in for free. How's that right? The taxpayers are paying for that too. Conservation passes. So if you want to go up to Algonquin Park or go to a park in the summer or go camping, you have to pay $30, $40 to get in to the campgrounds. Not councillors. Councillors.
This goes on. I mean, I'm loving this. I don't know if you guys want to cut it short. He goes on at some length from the heart. And this was the realest guy you'd ever meet. And he coached football as a volunteer, and he did so many real things. He was a great man, and his shitty brother is the premier in large part because of Rob's reputation. Had Rob not been a councillor and then mayor, Doug Ford would not have won. Doug Ford lacks the honesty and the moral fiber of Rob. And I say that knowing that Rob had substance abuse problems. You know who that hurt? Himself. Yeah. Rob Ford didn't steal a dollar. He didn't wring out money. You saw what he was like there. But his thuggish brother became premier on the reputation of Rob. And that is a cruel twist of fate. The wrong Ford brother is premier.
Yeah, and we watched Doug suck up to the same media in Toronto that hassled and bullied and followed his brother right into the grave. I'll never forget them harassing Rob as he tried to take his kids to school. And then after Rob died, just crowding onto his lawn. Rob's kids having to run the gauntlet of media. And these are the same media vultures now that Doug sucks up to every time he kisses Carney's butt.
Yeah.
for
Well,
us.
let me give you an update from the stats here. 85.7% for Pierre Poilievre. Again, that is 3% higher than Damien Carrick got earlier this year. In terms of the number of votes counted, 20 out of 286 polls are reporting that's 7%. So it's still early days, but who's kidding whom? It's going to be between 80 and 90% for Pierre Poilievre. The great hope of the CBC, Bonnie Critchley, the Stolen Valor parachute candidate, is at 6.6%. The Liberal getting higher, 3.2%. Again, far back from Trudeau's 11.6%. I think we know how tonight is going to go. Unfortunately for the CBC, their narrative of Bonnie Critchley, giant killer, isn't coming true just yet. But, you know, I'm sure they're still hoping against hope.
Yeah, and it seems as though maybe 10 of the longest ballot committee candidates have even had ballots cast for them. Because I think that Sarah Spanier, she was on the debate stage as an
yes, she
independent.
was.
So, yeah.
Yeah, she was.
And she got 4 votes.
She got 4.
Well, that's pretty respectable, 4
Same
votes.
as the marijuana party.
Oh, that's
got a
right. Yeah,
small
tying with
family.
marijuana party, yeah.
Ezra, can I go back to something you said before we were talking about Rob Ford?
Yeah.
One of the things that I've been puzzled about is when I look at Venezuela, you know, a once prosperous country, huge oil reserves, built up infrastructure, refineries, production capabilities, pipeline systems, all that. And then socialism comes with Chavez and now Maduro. Hyperinflation, cost of living, poverty, devaluation of their dollar in the extreme, collapsing of their infrastructure, leaking pipelines, refineries that can't run, wells that can't pump. And I was wondering, how is it possible with those cold, hard facts and the millions of people that are suffering under that system that they could still support it? So I was doing some research, and I was trying to research what the views are and the position is of people who continue to support their socialist experiment. And the number one reason for their driver, some was the sense of helping the poor and concern about inequality, but the number one belief was that the socialist system wasn't working because of the sanctions and the bad policies from the United States of America. Right? So when I look at what Carney's doing and how he's antagonizing the United States, for example, when he announced support, $10 million worth of support for the Palestinian Authority to move towards independence and statehood, I guess he'll have no problem whatsoever if and when the Trump administration sends $10 million to the Alberta Prosperity Project to help Alberta move towards independence and statehood, seeing as he's now set that precedent. And then more seriously announcing the next week, Carney did, that he's going to unilaterally in September at the United Nations General Assembly recognize the independent state of Palestine right before the night before the deadline for the trade deal with the U.S. to antagonize when Trump was pushing hard for a ceasefire, some kind of resolution of that terrible crisis. So, and then you get Ford doing what he did on CNN, knowing full well, this is not Ford's first day on the job. He knew full well that Trump was going to see that, and he poked him in the eye. And my cynical theory is, you know, one theory is it's just pure incompetence all the way around with Carney and Ford. Another theory is they realize how bad things are getting and how bad things are going to get economically and socially in Canada, in Ontario and in Canada. And they need a scapegoat, and they need one now. So Trump, you know, orange man bad, orange man bad, orange man bad, which creates a very interesting question is what position is Poilievre going to take? Is he going to take the position that it's not Trump's fault and that these are made in Canada problems and that Carney and the Carney Liberals and the Doug Ford, and I hate using the word conservative, I'll just say the Doug Ford political party, own it, or is he going to sort of play in on this anti-American, anti-Trump sentiment too? I don't know. What do you guys think?
Well, that's the dilemma that cost Poilievre the election, I believe.
Agreed. Yes.
He couldn't credibly oppose Trump because people, oh, you're faking it because you're Trump-like in so many ways. And he couldn't truly anyways because some of his base would say, what are you doing? Why are you trying to out-liberal the liberals? I think that's why he lost. My theory is, had he chosen his own controversy to change the subject, and in my view that's a zero immigration, remigration approach, that would have been so shocking and repulsive to the mainstream media, they would have focused on that. But just like transgender issues, which are universally supported by the regime, but universally detested by ordinary people, it would have backfired on the regime. Had Pierre Poilievre said, no, I don't want to talk about that controversy. I want to talk about this controversy, which is a realer one. So many of the problems in Canada are from mass migration. But yes, if you allow the Doug Ford, Mark Carney liberals to make the ballot question about Trump, Conservatives are going to lose every time. Happened in Australia as well. And I don't understand why Trump meddled the way he did. Baffles me. But he did. Anyway, we'll see. I mean, Poilievre has made a lot of strides on the immigration issue since the election, which isn't as helpful as had he done it before the election. But I think he's starting to focus on that issue because I think and by the way, overseas, that issue has gone wild. In the United Kingdom, every day there are hundreds of people marching spontaneously outside those migrant hotels. They've had it over there, and I think that might spread to Canada in time. Anyway, that's a bit of a rambling answer. Sheila, should we go through some of them super chats? I'm not sure if we touched on them all.
We have not, but I think it's our next guest will be coming momentarily. So why don't we go to our chats while we say goodbye to Keith and thank him so much for giving us a half an hour of his time and analysis about the by-election. Keith, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Take care, Keith. Thanks.
Thanks.
Yeah.
All right.